That's the equivalent of saying cut, part 2. So that's why I'm thinking, I have this book called Nutrition and Evolution, and I've never read it, but it's something about the right nutrients have to be present for the next evolution to take place. And I'm thinking that since we as human beings now have access to different supplements and vitamins and things, we can really drive the growth of our brain in new ways if we're giving it certain nutrients. So I think I'm like doing this balancing brain chemistry thing with Peter Smith, which is to help bipolar and take the control stick to tone down mania and speed up depression, speed up the brain when it's in depression. But I think I'm like inadvertently giving my brain all these extra nutrients that it can bathe in to grow in new ways. And then I was able to see this beautiful inner dimension as one thing. That's just one point, but I was also able to go to sleep without poisoning my brain more. And then by not poisoning it, it can continue to sort of grow and relax and do its thing that it's doing, which is growing and evolving. So I've created this word, and I don't know where I put it. Here it is. Well, there's like orthomolecular medicine, which means right molecule. And there's like orthomolecular naturopaths and orthomolecular psychiatrists and things, which are rare, the psychiatrists especially. But I created a word, and I'll condense it, but it's orthomolecular perceptio neurogesturetical. Now what that means is that we need the right molecules for the brain cells to perceive clearly, not the eyes. The eyes are clouded with our own past images. The brain cell seeing is a totally different thing. So right molecule for the right perception of the brain, which then feeds right action. We can't act properly if we're not seeing the right things. And so the right molecule, orthomolecular, perceptio, perception, and then action is gesturetical, or gesturetics. And we need sleep to stay in space-time material reality. Consciousness actually easily leaves the body when we're sleeping and things, but the brain has reached this point where it can go into deep sleep and access this dream realm of light and sort of remote view, astral travel, lucid dream, go into holotropic states, all these different things that I don't really know much about, and I don't really have time to like spend years learning about lucid dreaming. Like, I'm not interested in going into one thing. It's like mapping a territory and getting to the gate of a certain thing, like, oh wow, it looks like I can remote view, and that's what's been happening partly. And it kind of scares the shit out of the body when consciousness stretches like a telescope all around the world and all around the cosmos. When it comes back, like, it's sort of like, oh my god, that was scary. And then it's when it comes back and goes like, it's almost like it like pops up a bunch of this dream material into 3D reality when we wake up. So it's like it comes back, we're awake, but then there's this splash of dream material into 3D space-time, and then we're having to like deal with it, and our body's like, ooh, what's that, and freaking out, aka psychosis. But not really, but it turns into that if we keep poisoning our brain to punish it for traveling. And so yeah, I think I'm learning a little bit about this whole orthomolecular perceptio neurogesturetical thing, giving the brain the right molecules to evolve and also to sleep, because when it starts to grow in these ways, it can have trouble sleeping. And so that was something I wasn't necessarily going to go into right now, because yeah, so the last thing about sleeping, if I'm in this deep sleep but I'm awake, my brain and my body kind of thinks it's sleeping, so I actually can't switch into sleep because it's already sort of sleeping but awake. Maybe one day I'll be able to sleep while fully awake in this sort of inner dimension and the brain wake up rested, yet I had all this bonus time in this beautiful world of light, which could end up feeling a little bit more real. And I think that's partly what scares consciousness and the body, is that if it starts to see that thing as more real, it might be like, get me out of this material world. It's a bunch of bullshit. So I don't want to get to that point, because I do want to live out my material existence for as long as fate, destiny, the cosmos, the family constellation, karma, all those things that I mentioned in a previous video will allow. And I think it was cool to see that light realm, because I'm like, cool, that's there. But yeah, I do want to live this material existence, and it's learning to navigate walking between the worlds, like walking between this inner world of light and sound that's beautiful, with like holographic feet and quantum feet in consciousness that's non-local, non-linear, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, all those things, and then waking up and doing whatever one has to do. Number 2, eat, sleep, be clean, all that stuff. So yeah, I talked about that. And so these last 3 days, I've had a lot of social time and working, and that's why I'm a little bit behind on talking to myself. I think 2 days in a row would be better, but I learned a lot in terms of the spire. So the spire stone. So I mentioned in my last video on the 13th how when I was at work, I had a large percentage of tense breathing, and then I was with a friend and it was mostly focused breathing. So that was really good to know. And then Saturday, see, I don't even know what I did Saturday now, I forget. Oh, so I went to this meeting about this thing that I might be partly organizing or not. I haven't decided, because I actually might decide to take off again, go to California like last minute or something, depending on how things go this next week. Partly depending on how it goes when I work on Wednesday. Like if I'm tense most of the time and the Wednesday after, I don't have any work really lined up after that, though I could line up more, so it's just not really good for me, perhaps. Especially in this time when stress is building up at the same time that I'm creating and doing a lot of things and have a lot of energy and executive functioning. There's still this fishnet dragging along behind me and picking up all the stress, partly that I'm not seeing because I'm taking quetiapine, which is a tranquilizer, which blocks out the subtle things that would really bother me if I wasn't taking it. Bother me as a part of the consensus reality. So driving to that meeting, I won't go over every little bit. I could take screenshots and go over every little bit, but I won't. But I was driving to the meeting and there was tension when I was stuck in traffic. So I think I'm getting better at driving, and the tension is there mainly if I'm in like bumper to bumper traffic in the big city, and not if I'm driving along, which is nice. And then when I was at the meeting, I did notice tense moments, and it seemed to be more related to when someone was talking in a certain way. And then, so before I talk about the people aspect, I want to say that what I've discovered is that I feel like it's not necessarily that people are making me tense, it's that I feel and mirror their tense breathing. So if that person is tense, I'm going to breathe tense because I'm mirroring them. I'm picking up their tension. So it is making me tense, but I think it's giving me more of a clue that certain people are in a state of tension, and I'm picking up on that, which of course has an effect, but my conscious human experience of that person, most of the time, or persons, whoever, is enjoyment and glad to be there. There was some feeling tension and maybe not as glad to be there listening, but I feel like I was picking up on, I wish I could help some individuals be a little more like loose and expressive with their manifestation, because like I've taken this course called Body Awakening Method with Carol Maureen Friesen, and it was really good. She trains light workers, and her methodology that she learned was through the body, meaning learning how to walk and stand and sit and talk and move one's hands. And I didn't take all the training, so I don't know that much, but I think it did really help me to learn how we hold ourselves has an effect. So what I'm saying is, it seems that what I learned a little bit from experiencing tension around a certain individual was that the energy in that person is so high, like their consciousness and their thinking and their processing was probably like way higher than mine or way faster than mine. So they're in like a heightened energetic state. And if I'm in a lower state and other people around them are in a lower state, they're going to manifest as being kind of warped and kind of and like talking fast and all that. To them it seems normal, and to them they might actually be like this, like whoa, but we project and experience them as different and kind of too fast because of how we're slower. It's actually something I don't think I've talked a little bit about yet, or talked about yet. Here I am talking fast and not being able to talk. I think I stumble on my words more when I get about to talk to about something that I haven't talked about before, or it's very new. Like maybe it's never been spoken. If it's stuff that has been spoken a lot, the brain cells are really good at allowing it to come out of the mouth. But I remember last year when I was talking about new insights, I would fumble on my words all the time. This time I don't think I'm going to sit and edit that out. That's what I did a lot of editing out of last year and the year before, or probably the year before mostly, because I have a completely new insight that I sort of channeled from nowhere. I think it's sort of when David Bohm says to David Suzuki that we need a new source of information. I think this is the new source channeled through the brain, but when we say this new information, since it hasn't been said by a million people and thought by a million people over a million days and a million brains, it comes out more fumbly. So I'll leave the fumble in. And what I'm trying to say is that I think what Einstein partly discovered, and I'm not pretending to know what he knows and anything like that, I like to take the themes and relate it to my experience, but not get into the details because that would take too long. And the thing is, when the brain is clear, we can understand things in a flash, like infinitely more than we could ever enunciate to another person. So what I'm able to say about this is a very small amount that I feel I understand. And then that doesn't even encapsulate the whole possible understanding if I understood all of what Einstein said. But anyway, I think the whole relativity theory partly applies to consciousness. So if my consciousness is going at a faster speed, but then another person going even faster, they're going to manifest in their body and physical form moving faster and talking faster because their brain, their consciousness is actually traveling faster. So there's a relativity. And then mine's slower. So in order for us to match and actually meet, they're going to have to appear as faster and going like talking faster and moving faster and almost like kind of warped by the energy in terms of like so much energy going through that one is kind of like more so than being able to move fluidly. But I feel that perhaps by learning to move fluidly, that will give some more mobility to the neurons and the nervous systems and build those neural pathways, so when the energy comes in, we can still move fluidly. But if we don't like work on that, every time the energy comes in, we're gonna look like and like, no offense to anyone, I'm just wondering about this and I'm curious about it. And maybe I would love to be in a state where I was manifesting as almost fried, because I'd be like so close to actuality and the light realm, but I don't want my body to be fried by it at the same time. So I think I was actually feeling some, like, I don't know if I can be around that high of an energy. It feels tense, and I also didn't fully enjoy. But I think with more time, I would probably get used to it, because I'm saying this and it sounds like a judgment, but I also realize that that person is probably in like this really, really high state, and it's so hard to be out and around other people and communicate when one's brain is like so high in consciousness. So I didn't see this person as manifesting in tense ways in my experience, and more extreme movements as like, wow, this person is less than. I saw them as, whoa, they are just so plugged in that it's hard, it's hard to take all that energy. It's like, it's hard to take that energy. So it was a learning for me, and I'm always learning. And then so that thing is something that conflicts with possibly going to California. So that's where I'm choosing. But that's why the device was helpful, because I'm like, well, if this is going to bring a lot of tension and I'm not sure if I can receive all this energy, that, maybe it's not bad, then maybe I want to participate in that less. And then I'm pretty sure if I go to California, the humans I'm around down there don't make me feel like there's too much coming at me. And it could be too much coming at me because that person is in a really high energy. And also for me, I have a lot of energy coming at me from the universe. So to have a lot coming from one particular person is a lot. And it could have just been the initial experience. Like, there is something about getting to know people. I was getting to know a person in terms of what this spire was telling me, but it's not the ultimate authority. It's only one tool. Because I really did enjoy the meeting. There were a bunch of people there. I felt I could communicate. It was a good meeting. And I feel like I'm picking on people, but the thing is, throughout my life, I've always kind of noticed how people carry themselves. So sometimes I've wanted to take more of that body awakening method training, because it's a safe space to like call people out on the way they're holding themselves. Like Carol's like, don't stand like that, this, that, blah, you're doing this, you're doing that, blah, no. And I could see myself kind of doing that, even more so than the constellation family constellation, because of what I just said. So I'm going to write that down to myself, but I'm not even sure if that's the exact one. The whole like calling people out on how they're holding themselves. It could be good, because I'd rather call people out on how they're holding their body than how they are in their psychology. And then the physiology, it affects the psychology and going through the body. And that's kind of what I'm learning with these experiments that I'm doing, is that the physiology is so powerful. Like taking the nutrients and then changing the experience of trying to fall asleep when I'm having trouble sleeping. And then also experiencing how, this was the other thing, I hung out with another friend and experienced mostly tense breathing. And I, again, think I was mirroring the tense breathing of another person, but I was really enjoying that person's company a lot. Like, it was really good dialogue, synchronistic, fun, laughter, some seriousness, some inquiring into possible problems and things, and it was like almost 3 hours, and I had a really good time, but there was like 20 minutes or more of tense breathing and no calm, and maybe 2 minutes of focus. So kind of the same ratio as doing work, but I was really enjoying myself at work, and I was enjoying myself with this person. The other person was a little bit too much, I thought, just on that occasion, first meeting maybe. and there was a little bit of tense breathing, not like 20 minutes worth, like maybe 10, that correlated more when that person was speaking. So that's how I saw that. So I'm wondering about this whole like how I consciously, humanly experience things versus the physiology of my breathing. And that's when I realized, wow, it's probably more other people's tension than my own, because I feel okay up here, and I did when working with that friend, yet the people I was around probably had tense breathing for sure. So I'm going to pick up on it. But I think by being there and picking up on it and being able to enjoy myself, maybe there's some healing for me and everyone in that. I don't know. So I'm not saying that tense breathing is bad. It's just a certain physiological characteristic or correlation to the moment. It's not a cause. It's not, oh, this person is causing me to breathe tense. There's some kind of correlation there. I'm mirroring them, which could be a form of empathy. So like if I was breathing calm and this person is tense, that could almost be this incoherent untruth. So I don't want to say that anybody is anything. It's just interesting. And then so one person like 20 minutes focused breathing, another person 10 minutes tense, another person 10 minutes or 20 minutes tense, and then another person like nothing. 3 hours of mostly nothing. Like same kind of time period, but like the Spire doesn't track everything as calm, focus, or tense or active. There's some time that's just normal breathing. So like that person was just normal. And that made sense to me because I just sort of feel like nothing around that person in a good way. Like I don't have to be this or that or prove anything or do anything special, but I can do something special if I want and not be attached to it. It's just very amazing, and that person's like helped me so much in my life. So I don't want to get into personal stuff that much. I'm just saying that the Spire can do this like who, what, where, when, and the who part of what causes some tense breathing. And it's not like, oh, if somebody makes me breathe tense, I never want to be around them. It's almost cool to know that maybe next time we can talk about something else and maybe it's something different. Or maybe I can do some calm stuff before and bring a calm energy, and that makes another person feel calm. So it gives me more tools to learn how I can be in myself. It's all personal responsibility. Nothing is anyone else's fault at all. And it's going to help me learn more how to be. And I did, last thing I think about this whole breathing thing, and I could show screenshots and all that, but it just gets too messy and complicated. I showed some screenshots before, and I had a birthday dinner, and I was focused breathing a bit during the first couple hours, and then at a certain point I started having all this tense breathing, and it correlated with some people leaving. So I don't know if some people sort of their morphogenetic fields like brought the energy that was more calm and everything, and then when they left there was more tension left there. I don't know if I was picking up on others' tension, or if I think like calm people left and more tense people remained. I don't know. And then so I was picking up on the tension, or I just felt tense because some people left. I don't know. But the other thing that could have caused some of the tense breathing was I got this baseball glove that I asked for, and I didn't really clue into the whole like leather aspect, and I'm vegetarian. I don't like to buy a lot of leather, even though I wear a leather belt every day because I've had it for years, got it secondhand. It doesn't break, like it's indestructible, instead of like buying all these plastic belts and having to replace them every month or two. So, and I'm sure there are belts that work that are vegan, I just haven't gotten there yet. So I felt bad, and that could have been part of the tension, like, oh, I got this big leather glove. But then somebody else got one too, and then we were playing catch yesterday, and it was kind of fun. And I played catch before, and the ball hits my hand, it really hurts. So my thing lately is get a good piece of equipment, and then I won't stop doing a certain activity because I think, well, I don't like it, because catching the ball hurts my hand. But having this really big piece or good piece of equipment, it was fun. So I'm likely to do it more. So I feel more settled with this leather glove. I'm sorry to the cows. I will have this for the rest of my life. And if I get a new car that the trunk doesn't leak, I'll keep it with me and play catch with everyone that I can. And it goes with my goal of being more active. I got my tennis racket, I got my glove, and I got a badminton racket for my birthday. So all these things require somebody else. Tennis, catch, badminton. So that's good because it'll also increase social activity. And one of my friends that I met up with on the weekend likes badminton. I found out, I'm like, I just got a racket. We can go play. So then going from less talking about stuff to playing and having fun and doing active stuff. And action like that, builds the neurons. It's epigenetics. It's changing the epigenetic matrix of a person and their possibility. So that was cool. And I hope with the stuff that I described about the spire and people that I'm making it clear that it's not like, oh, this person is tense or makes me tense. I don't see it that way. It's a clue also when having really deep conversation and people are a little bit distressed, and it's a distressing thing to like a reminder to breathe. Like, I don't have to breathe tense, just like I've learned how to breathe more when driving. I haven't had as many tension notifications anymore. It just spontaneously has happened. It's not like I'm thinking, oh, I have to breathe deep, I have to remember. It's biofeedback. So I think in the same way, by knowing who creates what kind of breathing, I can go in with a different breathing intention. And then if I have a different breathing intention and I'm able to breathe differently, that will be mirrored to the other person and they'll pick up on it subconsciously, and that will help them without even having to do anything except breathe differently. Without even having to think about breathing differently, just having an awareness that my breathing was a certain way last time. And then the other thing too is, next time with different people, we might be walking. It's been raining, so I would have active breathing and the other person would too, and we'd be mirroring each other that way and enjoying the outdoors and nature and more active stuff. So instead of sitting there having a conversation for 3 hours, there'll be 3 hours of activity with less tense breathing. So it just shows also too with certain people, like, next time let's do something active. So this is all good information, and it gives me more empathy for people where I pick up this tense breathing, where maybe I'm mirroring some of their tension. And it's not like people shouldn't have tension. God, rightly so. People who live life, everyone has this tension, and some more than others with what they've been through. And I won't go into any details of that, of course, but it makes sense, for God's sakes. It's not a judgment. It could actually be helpful to know this person's more tense or whatever, and then be like, hey, let's go do something fun, not sit around and have a tense conversation. Maybe have a bit of a tense conversation while doing something fun. So yeah, like I said, all good information, no judgment at all. Even though it probably sounds like that. I don't want it to sound like that though, even with like people being there and then some leaving and la-di-da. It'll all help me in the long run. And physiology is more truthful. So the tension is more truthful than the conscious experience. But at the same time, by knowing that truth, one can act differently. And I also know that I have a low stress tolerance. So if I'm going along through this time period, over time, I'm building up more and more stress. The more and more this tense breathing goes on. And by knowing that I had tense breathing in certain scenarios, I can go home and do more calming stuff or more active stuff. So it's all empowering. And like I said, my conscious experience over these last 3 days of working and having all this social time was like 99% enjoying, being present, really there. in conversation, in connection. So whether it or not this breathing thing tells me I'm tense or not, it doesn't matter, because I'm living life, communicating, enjoying being out there, and it's great. And I have a lot more to talk about, but I'll end that part there for now.